Sorry about that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to read the first chapter, which is quite short. The baby on the doghouse. Hold on. Better glasses. 9-year-old Sherry Gallagher opened her eyes in the darkness, but her heart remained in the dream, as heavy and sodden as a towel soaked in a mud puddle. It was a dream that had revisited her every so often for a long, long time. In it, she's a baby, old enough to sit but not to walk, and she's sitting on the roof of the doghouse in their backyard. She has no idea how she got up there, but there she sits, clothed only in a cotton diaper, fastened with safety pins, looking forlornly across the yard at the lighted window where her mother stands doing the dishes. As she gazes towards the house, there's a flash of lightning, a slow roll of thunder, and a cold rain begins to fall. Sherry gasps as it hits her skin. Then her eyes widen, her chin puckers, and dissolving into misery, she balls up her baby fists next to her baby cheeks and lets out a loud baby wail. At the window, her mother looks up for the first time. Her eyes rest on Sherry for a moment, but they register no concern. Then she returns matter-of-factly to the dishes. Sherry had always woken up from this dream feeling unutterably sad, and a little guilty too. Even though her mother had died 2 years before, the dream still felt somehow disloyal to her, because after all, she had never been heartless, just busy and tired. With Sherry's 4 older brothers and sisters, her mother had constantly been wrestling mountains of laundry, cooking and burning meals, scouring dried food off of plates, burned crusts from the bottoms of pans, and yelling at kids to hurry up and get ready for school before they missed the bus. It wasn't that she hadn't cared, it was just that she hadn't had time. When Sherry was little, her mother sometimes read fairy tales to her at bedtime from the Golden Book of Fairy Tales. Sherry loved those stories so much that when she learned to read, she started reading them to herself from the beloved book with the beautiful illustrations so often that she had practically had them memorized. She liked to imagine herself as Cinderella or Rapunzel and would make up fairy tales to narrate her own days. Her oldest sister, Clara, who had come to help with the kids for a couple of months after their mom died, would become a wicked stepmother who made her sweep the crumbs from under the table for hours on end until poor Cinderella would escape to hide at the tip-top of the ladder tree on the side of the house, where her evil taskmaster would never think to look. Or her dad would become a giant roaring troll when he came up from the basement mad about some little thing, smelling of beer, his shouts slurred and indistinct, and she and her fellow billy goats would have to run and hide. Hiding was Sherry's superpower. She was very good at it. She could squeeze into surprisingly small and unexpected places, not just under beds and behind the hanging clothes in the closet, but in kitchen cupboards, behind the water heater, and out the dormer window of her little attic bedroom to the house's shingled roof. She was always on the lookout for new places to hide, because in her house, you never knew when you would need one.
You, Celeste. Yeah.
I just wanted to introduce some of the people that are here. First of all, I've got family members. With Frederick Carnes over there, that's my brother Freddie and his wife Olga. And Suzanne, this is my younger sister, Suzanne. And then Chris Boudreaux, this is my son. He's a teacher in Phoenix. And Nadine Boudreaux is my daughter. And she lives in Chicago. Then I've got so many of you from the writers group: Chris, Callie, Moira, Kay, Julie, and Zenjin. So yeah, y'all are my sisters too. I have one friend from a forest bathing retreat, Lisa Irish. This was a retreat that I went to in North Carolina just the week before I went on a solo 2-week writing retreat just for myself to knock out most of the first draft of this book. And it was a year ago, last March. So that time in the forest there was influential in the setting and, the ambiance of the book. And then I am very privileged to have actually 4 fellow authors who have written endorsements for my book. One is Julia, another is Julie, who is also one of the members of the writers group. But I want to introduce Barbara Sapienza, and she is sorry, I put notes. Here we go. She is the author of Anchor Cut, The Girl in the White Cape, and The Laundress. Barbara, would you like to say a word?
Sure. I just feel I wanted to say congratulations, Celeste, on your first book. I know it's so exciting to bring forth this gem, as Julie said. It truly is a gift to the world. And I feel really privileged to be among your closest relatives and family and writing group and other people who endorsed your book. When you asked me if I would read your book and give an endorsement, I thought, wow, I wondered if you had read my book, because one of my books, the third one, is also based on a Russian fairy tale. And in the Russian fairy tale, there's a Miss Mary, but she's more of a witch type. And the girl learns nonetheless. But I just wanted to say that this book reminds me of what I learned when I became a psychologist about the corrective emotional experience. That in this book, I constantly see Sherry, who becomes called Cherry and is cherished, working with Miss Mary. And each fairy tale that they tell each other becomes what we used to call a corrective emotional experience for the 9-year-old girl. And it's beautifully done. It's so rich and so fun to read. I read it twice. I read it again this weekend in preparation for this. And it isn't even better the second time. I just see so much in it. There's so much wisdom, and caring is the word I came out with. Caring. And then, of course, there's the little twist at the end, but it's so beautiful. And thank you for giving this to the world, Celeste, and I hope you keep writing.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
And I also would like to introduce Leslie Johansson Knack. She is the author of the book 14. That's the one I read, but also she's written another memoir, basically, of 19, and then The Blue Butterfly. So Leslie, why don't you unmute yourself if you want to say anything?
Thank you, Celeste. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here amongst your family and friends for your book launch. It's really a special day, and I enjoyed the book immensely, and I was inspired and moved by it, and wondered many times why you asked me to give you a blurb because I didn't see any overlap in our writing or because, oh, God, hold on, I haven't silenced my phone, obviously. Apologize for that. But when we then discussed the father in the story, I then understood my father was much, much worse than the father that you write. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I remember being 9. I was touched by your book. I thought it was very special, and I don't really know you, and I don't know anything about what you do, but it sounds like you have quite a wonderful community of friends and writers to support you, and that is just inspiring, you know. So congratulations on your book.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, and Julie, I know you're driving, but Julie Potiker is also an author. She's written the books Snap and Life Falls Apart, but you don't have to. She's a mindfulness teacher and former lawyer.
So my husband's driving and we are stuck in Point Loma, I was meaning to be home by now, but there must have been an accident. So we're driving all around. Anyway, I loved Celeste's book. I mean, I was riveted from the first page to the last page, and I was completely honored to write a blurb for you. The book is so therapeutic and so creative and beautifully written. And I get to see Celeste and Julia's writing group. So it's beautiful. And now I'm going to go back on mute as we continue to wind around and not get any closer to home.
Thank you. All right. Nadine and Chris and Suzanne, I know y'all have read the book. I'm just giving you a quick opportunity if you want to say anything.
I'll say something. I was able to read the book when I was on a trip with Celeste not too long ago. And also I busted in on her retreat and because I was also in North Carolina at that time. But I just wanted to say real quick that the book and her writing and her thinking has shed light on things that are hard to put your finger on. A child doesn't know how to process stuff, and we have, of course, similar history, my sister and I, but not exactly the same, but similar. And I loved the way that she could nuance feelings that are hard for a child to express. And I feel like she just got into that child's mind. And so it was an effective, I was a little bit wondering how a fairy tale was going to come off. I'm like, okay, but I know now why she did it, because it's just so whimsical and it was so effective. And some of the, it's not a autobiography, but some of the things, of course, we can relate to. For example, our mom used to sing "Tour Lure Lure" to us when we were little bitty kids, so that was real. But yeah, it was amazing. I shouldn't have underestimated her. Always wrong to underestimate her. I was like, fairy tale, but it was totally effective and totally grabbed a hold of my heart for sure. So yeah, I love you, and you did a great thing, my dear sister.
I'll also say that I read the book. She had sent me a draft of it. So I was reading it like on my phone when I was doing the Tahoe Rim Trail. So I was just hiking a whole lot. And so, at night I would read a chapter or two. And then it was nice to just be able to, hike in the woods and let it kind of marinate. Um, and yeah, I love the book. And I especially love the fairy tales and, thinking about like how fairy tales can say so much, just with the story and, what the characters are doing and how they react. So, So it was really nice to think about that, like for my own life. And yeah, it was very inspirational. So thanks,
Yeah,
Mom.
I knew that Nadine got it when she sent me by email her own fairy tale about her life.
And I'll just, excuse me, I'll just say just how proud I am of you. I really, really enjoyed the book a lot. And it's a weird experience to read a book from your mom a little bit, because on the one hand, I enjoyed the book just on its own, but then getting to read the book, I get to kind of get into your mind, into your heart in a little bit different way um than I normally do as a, son, daughter. I was, sorry, you get what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
but anyway, I'm just really, really proud of you. I love the book. And also that lullaby, that was one that you sang to us as a kid. So when that showed up in the book, that was really special. So thank you for writing the book and sharing it with everybody. It's great.
And Celeste, if it's okay, I know I haven't read the book yet, but I kind of knew the synopsis. And when I heard about this older woman who kind of becomes a mentor and that kind of thing, there's a long history of like women in the woods that give advice to young girls and young women. And it immediately, I thought of Baba Yaga, Vasilisa. And I tell a version of that story to children. And, to me, that there's a long tradition of that kind of folktale. And it's beautiful to hear that you wrote something like that.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Celeste, I know that we were going to go ahead and go on to another excerpt. I think what we'll do is have Celeste read a little bit more to us, and then we'll open this up for some questions. And then we have a couple book giveaways coming up here, like celebratory fun things. So yeah, let's go ahead and have you read that second excerpt, Celeste, unless there's anything else you wanted to address before we move on.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read some excerpts out of the second chapter, which is titled The Cottage in the Woods. Sherry lived in an old house that was drab green on the outside and drab greens and browns on the inside. It had 3 bedrooms, 4 if you counted the little attic room with the A-shaped walls that was Sherry's room, but only 2 bathrooms, which had been a great source of quarrels in what Sherry now thought of as the old days. In the old days, the house had been noisy and full. Her mom and dad and her 4 older brothers and sisters, Clara, Teddy, Donna, and Henry. Including herself, that was 7 people. But now the house was mostly quiet, with just her father and her in it. And the narrator tells about how the older children one by one left the house. And so now the only one left is Henry, her next older brother. So now Henry, at 15, was in a constant state of anger that mirrored that of her father. Over and over, he would get beaten, run away from home, and then come back when he got too hungry. But he stayed gone for longer periods now, and sometimes at night, he would climb up on the roof and tap on her window, and she would sneak him food from the kitchen. That's what had happened the night before. Henry had tapped at the window, and she went down and made him a bologna sandwich. He begged her also to give him some money. She felt very sorry for him, so she took $10 from the coffee can where her father hid the grocery and beer money. She hoped that her father wouldn't notice, since she was occasionally allowed to use that money to go to the corner store and get milk and bread when they didn't have anything to eat. She had just finished dressing when she heard her father roar from downstairs, "Sherry, get down here!" Her heart sank and her stomach constricted sharply. "Sherry!" he bellowed again impatiently. "Coming," called Sherry as she padded down to the first floor. Her father was in the kitchen, and he was red in the face. She inched cautiously into the room, and when she did, he grabbed her roughly by the back of her shirt and quick marched her over to the coffee can, which was now open on the counter, with bills and change spread out beside it. When he spoke, his jaw was tight. His lips moved, but not his teeth. His voice was low and full of menace. "Why are you stealing my money?" Sherry looked from the coffee can to her father, to the door, and back to the coffee can. She knew that he suspected that she had given it to Henry, and that this would make him especially mad. She didn't know what to say, so she didn't say anything. Her dad shook her hard, and her head jerked back and forth with the force of it. "Answer me, goddammit!" he yelled. When she didn't reply, he put his red face right up to hers, his jaw muscles working tensely. His stale cigarette breath assaulted her. "Do you know what they do to thieves in some countries?" he hissed threateningly. Eyes wide, she shook her head in quick little movements, almost like a shiver. His words came right in her face, sharply enunciated, with a deadly pause after each word. "They cut off their hand." As the last word came out of his mouth, he suddenly sprang into violent action, grabbing her right hand and smacking it down hard on the counter. With his other hand, he tugged a huge, heavy knife from the butcher block with a metallic swing and poised it over her wrist. Sherry immediately began to scream hysterically and to squirm and fight to get away with all her might. He must not have expected the strength of her panic, because she managed to twist out of his grasp and make a run for the back door. She evaded his attempt to recapture her as she flung open the door, and then she fled as fast as her skinny legs would take her across their large backyard. He was still standing on the back stoop, brandishing the knife and yelling threats as she ducked into the dense undergrowth of the woods behind their property. For a while, she kept crashing through the underbrush, heedless of the thorn bushes snagging her clothes and scratching her arms and legs, until she had a stitch in her side and had to stop for breath. She panted hard, leaning on her arms, which she held braced on her knees, until she could manage to hold her breath for several pounding heartbeats, listening for sounds of pursuit. In the distance, she still heard her father yelling, so she looked around for a place to hide. She knew the woods near her house pretty well, as she often played there by herself, so she made her way towards an old boarded-up log cabin. Though she couldn't get inside, one side of it was half covered by an overgrown hedge that was a good place to hide. As she slipped into the familiar hollow under the hedge, she felt the approach of a great jumble of feelings, like a big wave at the beach. She missed her mom, the warm comfort of her hugs after a nightmare. She felt sorry for Henry, knocking softly on her window. And her father with the knife. Terror, relief, loneliness, and sadness all tumbled in head over heels with the wave that overtook her. So, leaning against the wall of the house with her head to her knees, she sobbed out her fear, her shock, and her bewilderment. Then suddenly she was startled by a wooden scrape very near her head. It had not even registered that she would curled underneath a window, much less that there was someone inside the house. She immediately stopped, crying, froze, and held her breath while waiting. "Who's there?" asked a woman's voice. And that's her first encounter with the butterfly lady.
Wow. I felt that so deeply in my body, Celeste. I just really, really felt that. I've read that passage a few times. I've heard you read it, and hearing it again is just as powerful, more powerful maybe each time. This is the time that we want to open this up to some questions and get a discussion going here for anybody who has any questions at all about Celeste's book, about her process, or comments, questions. Yeah. So I think go ahead and unmute if you do have, or raise your hand if you know how to do that. And then I can call on people as questions arise. I'll start the question. I'll just start with a question for you, Celeste. I'm very curious. Was there ever a question that you would write this as a novel as opposed to a memoir? I want to know that. Did you ever consider a memoir?
I did take a class about writing memoirs, and so I thought about it, but I didn't really seriously consider it. And it was I was telling the group before we started the recording that if I had made it an actual memoir of even just my childhood, it would have been a much longer book.
Mhm.
Because it was very complicated, a lot of moving pieces and people coming in and out and changing situations and extenuating factors like mental illness beyond even depression. So I just didn't want to do that. Besides then, with people in your family still alive, there's questions of whether they want to tell the story.
Mhm.
But so anyway, I very quickly moved to novel.
Right. Yes, thank you. Yes, and I will go ahead and as hands raise, I'll try to catch the order a little bit. So if you do have a question, put the hand up. And I saw Chris's first. So Chris, yeah, go ahead. Ask your question.
Well, thank you for writing this. I have absolutely no experience with a family situation like that, or actually the complete opposite, but it's so graphically described, and my insides are turmoil. But my question is, do you feel like writing from the 9-year-old self or the 9-year-old girl, do you feel healing for yourself, for that little girl within yourself?
Yeah.
Through writing this?
Yeah, I don't think I could have written it if I hadn't already done a lot of healing work on myself. But as someone said to me, that the healing process isn't really complete until you're sharing it with others and helping others through what you went through. And I do feel that.
Okay. Because I know that, through our writing class, we've talked about this, and granted, my traumas don't even come close to this, but as you can tell by the color of my hair, I've experienced a lot of life. And one of the things I've just come to realize is that I would like to rewrite or visit my young girl, and then also rewrite some of the things that I went through and see if that can be a healing process for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate you doing this and sharing with us.
Chris. Yeah. Celeste, I want to give you a minute if you want to say anything in response, or we'll go on to the next question if not.
Well, it just reminds me of one of the announcements I want to make is about a discussion group, a 6-week book discussion group that I'm planning from April 17th to May 22nd. So like on a Thursday evening, once a week, online, of course. And it'll be going through the book and stuff, but it'll also have some exercises in it where people can consider their own story, like in fairy tale form or just whatever. So
I love that. I love using the book also in combination with healing work with people. That's amazing. That's so, love that. And Moira, I saw your hand next, and then Barbara, I'll go to you.
and Kay also.
Here we go. Congratulations, Celeste.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Just taking that in, hoping you are. I'm in Write Yourself Free with you, and one of the things that I've always appreciated is hearing people read their work, read their writing. You have a lovely, lovely voice, and I'm wondering, I know I asked you, I think, I don't know, maybe a few weeks back, is there a possibility that you're going to put this on like Audible or something so that we can also receive the book by hearing maybe your voice, hopefully, but possibly others? I know you mentioned maybe others, so just
Yes. I am planning to put it on Audible. And one big reason for that is because that's my main way of consuming books and for the last many years. At first I was thinking of doing it myself, but then I decided with all the fairy tales and all, they call for voices, and to me that calls for an actor. But thank you for saying that.
Well, I will look forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Moira. So we saw Barbara next, and then we'll go to Leslie after Barbara.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Celeste, about your scientific knowledge about the metamorphosis that you describe so beautifully and poetically, and it's such a great parallel to what's going on for Cherry. And I just wanted, it's a plus, this way that you have your Miss Mary just know so much about nature. And I just wondered if that's you in some way. And it seems very scientific and poetic at the same time. And the images are beautiful.
Well, thank you. It's not so much scientific in that I learned all about it by studying about it, but it's experiential because I am myself a butterfly gardener. And so
Okay.
I am intimately acquainted with, what they go through when they metamorphose. And it's always been, since I started doing it, maybe 10 years ago, I have been taken by the symbolism of it. And so for me, I think of it in terms of like parts of life. So like the first half of life is about establishing yourself in the world, growing up and finding love and building a career and a home and all that. And to me, that's the caterpillar time of life. And no disrespect with that, because that's a very necessary phase. But for me, the beginning of the chrysalis phase was when I went through a health crisis and had to learn a new way of living. And so I that's when I really started pursuing contemplative practices, and that really was my salvation. That entering that time of going inward into silence, into solitude, and letting myself be reformed. And of course, I mean, it's not exactly that it's very linear, first this phase, then another, but I do feel like since I retired a year ago or a year and a half ago, this is the beginning of my butterfly time of life. And that means something specific to me. So
Yeah. I wanted to say, if you do choose to write a memoir, that would be such a beautiful frame for it, what you
yeah,
just said,
thank you.
without all the stuff that we go through from this, but this is just something people would love to read
Yeah.
for your memoir anyway.
Little
I'm voting for your memoir.
All right.
consider that a seed planted. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Barbara. And Leslie is up next with a question.
Okay, so I had some resources to offer you about your audiobook if you want to do it. I have a way to do it that's not going to be that expensive. So if
It's not ACX.
it is ACX.
Okay, that's
So
what I've been thinking of. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I don't know if you were going to do non-exclusive or exclusive. All of this we can talk about later if you want.
Okay,
email.
great. I'll
But
contact you. Thank you.
yeah, I can give you the resources or the idea that I have. And I have a friend that has done it too, that has not cost her a penny. So anyway, I just wanted to know when you started writing this book. How long ago? How long have you been working on this project?
Yeah. Well, I've only been actively working on it for about a year,
Oh,
but I started collecting ideas for it probably 15 years ago. And then whenever I had an idea, I would just throw it into a document. And I just had the idea that maybe after I retired, I would try to put it together. So it'd been, and on a certain level, it'd been marinating for a long time. But
And
it
when-
really kind of came together fairly fast.
and when did the whole format idea, the way you were going to lay out the story, come together? Did it just come out like that, or did you envision the whole story
Yeah, you mean,
sort of like the fairy tale that we would
right.
read when we were kids, and the kids would end up in the forest and then they would discover something exciting and
Right.
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing of having a frame story and then interspersed with fairy tales, that came about because the very first idea that I had that went into that document was just a fancy that I had when I got a crystal and I would hang it in a window that had got a lot of sunshine or on my windshield mirror. And it would throw rainbows all around. And I got the idea of those rainbows being fairies, and because they would bounce around like fairies. And I just got the idea that that was them as they appear in the daytime. And so there was really no way to work that into a book without making up fairy tales. So that's how that got started.
Love it. Love it. Thank you.
Suzanne.
What two-part question, what audience did you have in mind when you were writing it? It's obviously not children, I don't think. And then the other part is, how important do you think it is to go back to childhood trauma and deal with childhood trauma if you have it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my ideal target audience is people like me. So people who have had childhood trauma or neglect or abuse and are working on healing it. However, while I was working with the publisher, they convinced me to at least open it to, like the youth age. And, like there's one scene in there that to me is, I wouldn't want parents to be surprised by it, But yet, if you compare it to Hunger Games and stuff, it's not not as bad as what's out there, So that's what, anyway, it's categorized as women's fiction, but it also has an age category that goes down to 13. And then the other part of your question was,
Do you think, is it
Oh.
important for people to go back to childhood trauma, or can you just kind of forget it, go on with life? And
yeah,
yeah,
Well-
how important is it? Yeah.
I do think it is important because things that you suppress do have a way of affecting your life in negative ways anyway. However, there can be a right time for it. I wouldn't push people into, trying to recover lost memories and stuff if they're not at a point in their life where they're strong enough to handle it,
Mhm.
So.
Oh, I love that question so much, Suzanne. I am so glad you asked that question about how important is it. It's like a really, really good question. There's layers of answers in that, I think, too. You know what I'm feeling like? Celeste, we're gonna keep going with questions, and I just saw Nadine's hand went up, and we'll get to you. But can we stop and pause and do the first giveaway for the book, and then we'll come back and keep going with questions. And I've got like a lovely little hat here that I have. Everybody who registered's name is in here. Celeste, one thing we didn't discuss is if the person isn't present, are we just doing present people with
Let's do present people.
Present people. So we might have to draw a few to get the present people, but I'm going to draw my first person, which is not here. Nope, not here. Okay, let's just see here. Random drawing, first book giveaway, and it is Zen Jen. Is our first book giveaway. Yay, Zen Jen. Look, here she comes. Zen Jen.
Hey, and Celeste, I did not read the book, so it's welcomed. And I'll tell you, I was not 9 years old, but I hid in bushes before when I was scared. And I was I was an adult. But wow, that was so spot on, man. I mean, I felt it. So what a powerful book, I'm sure. And thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Zenjan. Well, we'll do another fun little giveaway. But I think just in between, we'll flow with some questions still, as long as there are some. And Nadine, you are up then.
Was it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. So this kind of goes along with another question that was asked about, when you were getting the idea for this book. But I want to know specifically about the fairy tales. When did those kind of come about? Like, had you been already kind of collecting ideas for the different fairy tales, or is that something that you worked out like on that retreat when you were writing the whole thing?
Leading up to the retreat, I started doing, after I decided to use this format, I started doing research on fairy tales. And so I must have read all the way through like at least a dozen different fairy tale collections. Some of them were Grimm's tales, and I was especially interested in the older versions, the unsanitized, undisneyized versions. And some were specifically Irish. I was kind of hoping that the Irish fairy tales would be more light and hopeful than the Grimm's, although not necessarily. When I got into it, they were pretty horrifying too. But that I found collections that had fairy tales from all over the world. So I included some that were more like as if from India and different places. So anyway, the reason that the fairy tales sound so kind of sparse and fast is because that's how the fairy tale genre is written. And I had immersed myself into it so much that I was kind of speaking that language. Does that answer your question?
Fascinating. So interesting. I love it. Ah, so yeah, like Kay, I see your hand. Yeah. And anybody that has anything at all to say, like just consider what your questions might be.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Celeste. Not a question. I just want to affirm the beauty and power of all of this, and I'm so eager to read it. I have not read it yet. I will, and I'm so inspired to do that. And I'm so touched, and this is really what I want to offer, by your children affirming how proud they are of you, and having read the book and reflecting, Nadine, on your hike and all of that. It causes me to have this deep felt sense of the ripples of influence and your legacy in this. And it's just all of the family members here, I'm so touched by that. And it also strikes me in talking about the fairy tales and the ways in which you creatively weave these stories about facing fear and the suffering that comes with being human. So I can imagine lives being touched and healed beyond the particulars that are so important. I mean, your heart's wisdom in bringing this to the world. So I just a deep bow, and I'm so glad I could be here to meet your family and hear your voices too, and other authors. Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kay, as you were speaking, I want to just add something back to Suzanne, your question. Like the ripple effect of deep healing, like, is so obvious here, isn't it? Like just the ripple effect, because Celeste is sharing her story and it's rippling out to her children and to us, and it's so beautiful. And if that's never looked at, faced, gotten close to, it's in the body, it's deep in the body, it's so there. And to be able to release that and to share that and to offer that to your people, it's amazing and amazing. I really want to say that. And the next person, Freddie, over here.
Well, I just want to say, Celeste, that I'm very proud of you, and I'm really looking forward to reading the book. And I know our mother is proud of you too. I know she's here, and she's proud of you. And one other thing I'd like to say is that J.R.R. Tolkien said, there's more truth in mythology and fairy tales than in history books.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the reason why these stories have lasted so long, thousands and thousands of years, is that there's truth in them. And that comes from living. The truth of our lives comes from experiencing different things. And you can tell when an author isn't truthful. I mean, we know that there's deceit and all that thing within novels or writing, and that's part of the character. But when you see a central part of a story that is not truthful, you know it. And just to be able to use that truth of your life, and I know it's not autobiographical, but the truths that you experience is definitely part of that story. So, and thank you for doing this, Celeste.
Thank you. No, even though it's not the facts of the plot are not all my life, our life, but I made it to where the feelings are. The feelings are really real. And I do agree with what y'all and Julia was saying about how it affects the ripples out, especially within a family, because there are traumas that get passed down, even if you don't know the stories. Something in your body knows. And anyway.
Absolutely. Wow. Rose, I saw you next, and then Suzanne after Rose.
Yeah, I just am honored to be here today with all of you, and so happy to celebrate this birth of this new book. So I'm just very much admire Celeste, and I look forward to reading the book. So yeah, just so delighted to be here to celebrate, and it's a delight too to hear, the author read her own content, and knowing there's good and hard things in that content. So I just appreciate, I think, the authenticity of your voice, like to actually, I just really appreciate that it is such a privilege to hear an author read live in particular. So thank you for giving us that gift. And I'm curious if you would mind sharing just anything more about your butterfly process, like how you've kind of emerged more as a butterfly through this process, if you're comfortable sharing.
Sure. You mean, what do I mean by my butterfly life?
Yeah. Anything about how you've kind of grown as a butterfly through this process.
Okay, so this is my thought process. A butterfly comes out of the chrysalis, and it's beautiful. It adds beauty to the world. And so for me, I think that involves my art. Of course, the book is an art. Also, I do soul collage and painting and stuff like that. And so I do hope to keep adding beauty to the world. Also, a butterfly is attracted to beauty. It can, go up into the air and have a higher perspective, and it'll see the flowers, and it goes down and finds them, and it sips the nectar. And so that's another part of this phase of life, is that I want to really take the time to enjoy beauty and really just sit in it, as Julia is always encouraging us to do. And then the other thing is that basically the job of a butterfly is to reproduce. And so I want to be generative, which is, I think the main thing for me is helping other people that have been through similar things. And so that's what it means to me.
I just want to say something about the sipping of the nectar and how critically important the integration is of continuing to nourish and nourish and nourish yourself and all those parts of yourself, that little girl that you were, that teenager that you were, all of those parts. And you do that, Celeste. I know you have this involvement in the internal family systems, which is the therapy of meeting those parts of yourself. And you have written poetry. You're a poet also, and you've written poetry about that and described holding those parts, nourishing, and that butterfly sipping that nectar is that nourishment. And that is such a critical part of the integration, so critical. So I just wanted to add that. And then I wanted to, Suzanne, you're up next.
Thanks. I can't help. I just think of something else. I think what I'm about to say, none of you are going to be surprised about this 1 second, if you know anything about Celeste. But she's such an authentic person. She is just truthful and authentic through and through, and has a wonderful heart. And I just want to say that our generation of our childhood was very traumatic on a lot of different levels. But it's so encouraging to me. I'm the youngest of 6, and our oldest brother has been gone for quite a few years now. But there's 5 of us. And Celeste and my brother Freddie and my oldest sister Stephanie were going ahead of me doing a lot of the hard work of healing. And they just had to figure it out. I think that they all had different paths that they did it with. And for a while, everybody's lives were falling apart because you can't go through what we went through and not, like you say, you hold it in your body and you bugger on, you keep a stiff upper lip, and that's what you do. And you raise your kids and you marry and you do all the things. But at some point, those 3 siblings of mine somehow found a way on their own, really, to start down the healing process. And they had a profound impact on me. And the interesting thing is that we would get together for Thanksgiving and Christmas whenever I was a teenager on up to a young adult and on from there. And we had a real connection that it was not fostered from an older generation. It came just from us. And so I have an incredible family, and yeah, that's what I want to say. But Celeste is talking about her today. What you see from her is because she, suffering, I think, makes a larger part in your heart. It strengthens you. It expands your heart. If you don't have suffering, then you don't know how to love people as well. I'm not saying that anybody should ask for it or welcome it or anything. It just happens, But out of it, I have a pretty awesome family, and they have overcome a lot, and I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of Celeste too. So what you get from her is from all these years of sowing and reaping, and it's coming, it's flowering now. I'm really proud of her.
Celeste, I'll let you, if you want to respond to that before I say anything else.
I just blow kisses.
Yeah. So I feel so deeply honored as a witness right now to this family, you all being here. It's just a beautiful honor. And I so appreciate Suzanne that sharing and Freddie that sharing. And it's just really rich to hear from all of these family members right now. And you know what? I think we need to do one more book giveaway, and then we'll take a couple last questions. And then I know, Celeste, you have a few things you want to make sure to get in before we close. So I will draw our next book person randomly. I'm not looking, I promise. Okay, here it is. Oh, it is Chris. It's you, Chris. It's you. Yes, Chris is our second person. Yay, yay, yay. I love that. So fun. And on that note, so we've got two winners of the books, and then Chris had a question. So yeah, we've got about I don't know, 7 minutes or so left for questions. And then I know you want to have some time at the end, Celeste. So Chris, go ahead, ask your question.
I just was going to go back to Suzanne and just say, I think that what you just said and what the 6 of y'all went through talks about the resiliency of children, But I also wanted to know, is there a huge age range of the 6 of you, or was it? My family was like a litter of puppies. There were 4 of us in 4 years.
Oh, well, we weren't quite that close together, but we were basically 2 years apart.
Okay.
So
I think that has something to do with the fact that your experiences overlapped. And I know that as the 4 of us have gone through the loss of both parents, and gone through hospice, and hospice has gone, how do you guys do this? How can you talk? How can you treat each? And so much of it is, we went through things together and we grew together, and we were resilient through good times and bad. And I'm just blessed that you 6 were able to do that. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, we lost both parents pretty early, so and I should say that our oldest sister Stephanie came to my in-person party from Austin yesterday, so she's not being a bad sister. But she actually kind of became the mother substitute of, keeping the family together for holidays and stuff right off the bat.
So just taking a moment to see if there's any last questions that want to be asked in the next few minutes, or comments. And Jean, yeah, I see you.
Hi, I just want to say
Hi.
congratulations, and I can't wait to get the book. And I'm glad I got to hear you before, and I'm sorry I was late. And this is amazing, so I can't wait to watch the replay. And you're probably going to say this, but is there a way to get signed copies?
Yes, I will say that. But first, I was gonna read a quote, because people often ask, how close. Well, we've kind of covered it here. How even though it's not the facts of my life, it's very close. And this is a quote from Henry Nouwen, and he's partly quoting from Carl Rogers, but he said, "Anyone trying to live a spiritual life will soon discover that the most personal is the most universal. The most hidden is the most public, and the most solitary is the most communal. What we live in the most intimate places of our beings is not just for us, but for all people. That is why our inner lives are lives for others." And so that is what I hope, for this book.
Ugh, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. I think I just was going to say, I think there can be a tendency to think that we're being self-absorbed or egocentric if we're focused on our inner world, I mean, I think there's a societal conditioning around that, but I love that so much, Celeste, because yes, what's the most individual is the most universal. That is very, very deep and true. Yeah, it's beautiful. And go ahead, Celeste, you were about to say something.
Well, I saw Moira's question about the author's name for that quote. It's Henry Nouwen, but it's spelled Henri, and then Nouwen is Nouwen. And he was quoting from Carl Rogers when he said, who said, "What is most personal is most universal." I wanted to tell you about that 6-week course, book club thing. So let me see if I can share my screen. So you can find it on my website at celesteboudreaux.com. You see my website now? Okay, so this is Sherry's book discussion group. So it's these Thursday evenings, and right here is where you can register. So this is on my website, and then the book news page. This is something else that we're planning to do in early May. That'll have to do with IFS. Also, if you would like to get a free gift of some kind of the making of things that will include poems that are related to the book and soul collage cards that are related. If you would, you know, kind of help me promote it in any of these ways, you know, if like Goodreads and Readsy Discovery, those are both links you can follow. If you can get it on Amazon, and they like if you're going to leave an Amazon review that you're a verified purchaser there. You could post or share a post, or anyway, join almost anything you do. Just let me know that you did it, and I'll send you this PDF. But you have to read the book first, because you would get spoilers there. And if you so you can order the print book on Amazon. You can order the ebook off of almost any place because it's distributed by Simon & Schuster to all the ebook distributors. If you want a signed copy, you can get it from my website here. So if you go to the landing page there, then that'll take you right to where you can order it from me. Oh, and if you order it from me, you will find tucked into it this top secret envelope, which is about Sherry's on a mission. So this is her secret mission, but you can't open it until after you finish the book. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to say. Any questions about the practical stuff?
I just want to say I'm excited to hand this out to friends.
Right.
I need to talk to you later about getting a bunch of these.
Okay, great.
Any other last thoughts, feelings, questions?
I really want to thank everybody for coming. Make my heart full.
Yeah, thank you all. Gosh, so much. And we are celebrating you like crazy, Celeste. You're amazing. Such a gift what you're doing. Really, really. Yep. Ropes let down to the lost. It really does feel that way. And I think that with creativity, when we share that part where you said, Celeste, that the sharing is so necessary part of the healing, that rope, you know, let down for the lost is part of the healing. It's beautiful it's just, yeah, really amazing.
And I forgot to mention the Scan Me thing would take you right to where you could order the book from me. But it's an easy website also, celesteboudreaux.com. As long as you know how to spell the last name, which is not always easy.
There's a lot of vowels in there.
Yes, way too many letters.
And Jean said, thank goodness for art and creativity. Yes, I second that. For amen to that. And I see, Celeste, I don't know, did you want to continue to share your screen? I can see the hands
sorry.
better if you go back.
No.
See you all so much better. But I did see that Chris, I think, has her hand up. Yeah, there we go.
I want to compliment you, Celeste. You are beautiful, heart and soul, and your creativity is boundless. I'm overwhelmed. Everything you touch your hands to are butterfly beautiful. Yay.
Absolutely. That's
So
gorgeous.
thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Mwah.
you. Thank you.
Good to see you, Lisa. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Everybody.
Good to see you, Rose.
Mm.
And to meet you, Barbara, really face to face.
Face to face. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
So it does.
Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Congratulations to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Love you.
Love you too.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Celeste. Bye.
Congratulations and thank you. And is there a butterfly on the back of that beautiful blouse, Celeste?
Oh, look, it's not just a blouse.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. I thought I
love
saw
it.
something when
Yeah, this
oh, good.
one of my sister-in-laws gave this to me a couple of Christmases ago, and when you read the book, it describes a garment that Miss Mary always wears, and this is it. Yeah.
Oh.
I love that final flourish.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks, Julian.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Nice to meet all y'all.
Celeste.
Take
Much
care.
love.